Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today we're going to get back on the RM 400, the build on the engine. And if you remember right, when we tore this thing down, I said that I think we had measured everything, and I said that we could probably go back to standard. And you know, I think we could if push come to shove, but the more I thought about it and the more I measured things and thought about honing it and how much more that would take out. You know, we were setting at around 3.5, which would have been good. But by the time you hone it, using a rigid hone, not a ball hone, you're going to reduce it another thousands. So the limit on this thing was 4 7/10 thousandths. So it's just going to be too close. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bore it to first over, and it's going to be real close because we're essentially down to 5 thousandths already. So we're going to first over, which means it's basically 10 thousandths over. So we've got 5 thousandths left and 3 thousandths clearance. So it's going to be a real tight one. And if we can't get it really lined up with the bore, we may not be able to get it to clean up. But I'm satisfied we can do it. If there's anything that doesn't clean up, it will be so minute. But anyhow, we're going to get back on that. I want to take you over and show you the bike again. I'm getting ready to tear that down, and we'll sandblast the frame and get it painted, and then we'll be able to start building that thing. You know, when we put it together, we were just kind of trial fitting parts, and you know, because we're using 81 wheels and forks, primarily because there's just more of them out there. You've got on the 7980, you've got those 2 years, and it's real difficult to find those components. If I run onto them at a reasonable price somewhere down the road, I'll probably pick them up. But at this point, it's easy to get the 81 up to, I believe it's 87 for the most part. Those parts, there's so many more years of them out there. So I just want to take you over real quick, show you where we're at on that, and then we'll go ahead and get into the boring on the cylinder, and we'll do whatever we can to get along to build the top end build. So let's get over here and do it. I do want to say too that as I'm recording this clip here, it's the 4th of July, Independence Day for us that live in the United States of America. And there's a lot of celebration going on today, and I'm probably going to do a little celebrating myself with some good eats. And so I'm not going to spend the whole day doing this, but I've got to try to get you a video out for the weekend. So that's what I'm up to. And to everybody in the good old USA, happy Independence Day. Okay, here's the bike we've got. Just like I say, we've trial fitted a lot of this stuff. I know we need to go in here and put the swing arm bushings in. I think I've got a little welding that I want to do here. I want to try to bring this back up and make it look more like it was when it was factory instead of after it had a chain come off. But the frame and the swing arm are 1980 stuff. The frame is a little different on the 79. They've got an extra component. Well, actually, it's different. That's all. You've got a roller in here for the chain on the 80, and on the 79, actually, there's a roller in there too, but it's a bigger one. So there's just some small differences on these. This is an 80 frame, and the swing arm came from an 80, but our rear wheel is 81, and I believe this, I'm not positive, but I believe up to about 86, 87 is where these components come from. And it's pretty easy. I just had an axle that I believe this axle is for a 81 also. You just pretty much use all the parts for that. And same thing on the front. This is 81, and it would be 81 250 or 465, I think. I can't remember the chain there, how that works, but I believe they went to 465 in 81. But the forks for this bike anyway are from a RM 125 81 model. So we've got some different things. Actually, the length of the forks are pretty much the same. I believe we showed that when we were looking at them before. And we've already put the Temkin type bearings in the steering head, so that's done. So I'll just have to pull that out and clean the grease out before I sandblast it. And you can see here where we repaired the bottom of the frame here. It had a hole, I believe it was on this side, and I just wanted to beef that up. It's almost like a little skid plate for the bottom of the frame there, where you split a piece of tubing that's pretty close to the same size, open it up, and just fit it underneath here. And that's what we've done. We've just kind of stitch welded it as we went along. Then I used Pour 15, and I've let that run down in between so that it will keep everything from rusting inside and outside. And what I'll do before we paint, we'll put in automotive urethane sealer in these gaps right here, and that way we won't be allowing water to just continually get underneath there. But the Pour 15 should prevent any problems under there, but you just don't want water under there, so that's what we'll do to fix that. Okay, I'm still looking for a seat pan. These seem to be different. I thought I had one lined up from a gentleman, but it didn't work out. Actually, I thought I was going to get I think a 78, and I was just hoping and praying I could make it work somehow. But that hadn't showed up, so I'm not, really that's about it. I've got seat foam and I've got a cover. I'm just looking for a seat pan or something I can modify to work. The tank, of course, all that you can get from DC Plastics. This is a Clark tank, very good product. And I've had a lot of people ask me about the shocks, and I've seen some stuff on Facebook and whatnot about a lot of people don't like them. I've got a lot of bikes, and I've got these shocks on all those bikes. I forget what they call these. They come from Australia, but I think they're getting a bad rap in a way. Now, if you're a seasoned rider and you're out there really doing it every weekend and that sort of thing, I get it. 750 bucks or $1,000 for a set of rear shocks, they're sure going to work better than these. But for a guy like me that just pretty much a cow trailer or just a once in a while guy out on a motocross track, these are working pretty good, I think. And I've heard people say that if you cut this where the reservoir is, there's not even a hole between them. That's BS. You've got the fill right under here, and I've used it and they work. So if that was the case for somebody, then it was a happenstance thing. It's not a regular thing, because these do work as designed. They're just probably not the best shock that there is. Well, I know they're not, but they're not $1,000 either. These, I think, I got a sale on some of these where I only paid about $280 shipped to my door, and they work very good for an old guy like me. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're not an aggressive rider, they're probably going to work fine for you. So anyway, let's get on to the cylinder. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up. Let's see, which is, I think that might be best for you. There's some discoloration right here. I think this is better. Anyhow, I can't feel any of it, but we're at 5 thousandths clearance right now, and the limit is 4 7/10,000ths. So there's just no point in doing this. It's just too wide. So we'll go ahead and bore it, but there's our 25 piston, and it's going down in there pretty deep. So we really got to be right on the money when we run the bore through, because there's not a lot of space there to adjust or anything like that. So we got to be lined up pretty good. Okay, here's where they want you to measure. It says 26 millimeter, 1 inch from the bottom of the skirt. That's where we're measuring at. And there is a bit of a discrepancy. This is the manual, and I believe this to be the 1979 manual. I don't know. Yeah, I bet it is. It says November 78. So this is probably the 79. It looks like it, but I don't know what the 81 looks like, because I had one of these with mine. But if you go to the Ready Reference Suzuki, the RM 400T, they go piston diameter down here, measuring point. And the measuring point is 27.5 millimeter. So, you know, it's not that big a deal. It really isn't. So I'm just going to stay with 26, and we're just going to go from there. Let's see. Anything else here? Don't think so. But the clearance, piston to cylinder clearance, and top line is millimeter, bottom line is inches. So it's 2 8/10,000ths to 3 1/10,000ths with a limit of 4 7/10,000ths. So we're going to try to set up on the close side here if we can. Okay, we're pretty steady as she goes right here. So we'll get the test indicator out and see how close we are. Okay, looks like we're in contact all the way around there, the top anyway. So we'll see what this trip through shows us, and then we'll adjust accordingly. Hopefully we won't have to adjust. Okay, I've got one here that's longer than my mill is capable of. I've got 5 inches of quill travel. So I'm right there right now, so we'll shut her down. And what I'm going to do is zero out my quill and raise it just a little over 1 inch. That should be good. Lock it. And then you probably can't see it, probably glare on it. But over on the DRO now, I'm going to raise the table, the Z-axis, the same 1 inch. Only this one's closer to the inch. This just happens on these big cylinders. Okay, here's an inch. So then we just start it back up. Unlock it and restart the boring. So that'll drive it the rest of the way. That's the only way to do it on these long ones. The only way I know anyway. Now, I think I've talked about this in some of these boring videos before, but you know, if you kind of think maybe things would be off enough where you'd have a line. And you know, I've never had one that I know of. I can't see it. You know, there may be one, but it's small enough that you don't really notice it. But all you do is when you hone it out. So it's not a big deal. You just kind of got to keep track of, you know, you raise your quill, then raise your Z-axis. Okay, just dialed in 2 more. Okay, I moved it 1/1000ths on the x-axis and 1 2/10,000ths on the y. Just to kind of, because we've only got basically 10,000ths here, maybe 12. You know, we're it's a 0.25 over, so you know, we're just looking at about 10,000ths, and then our clearance of 3. So I can only do this once. You won't be able to catch up with it if you need to do it again. you know, if you're taking 20 thousandths or 30 thousandths, you can play around a little more, but you're pretty well. I mean, it's got to be. You got to understand which way it's going to move and all that stuff, and just hope for the best. Because I just was afraid it wasn't going to clean up, and it may not still. You know, you just never know. So we're going to do it the best we can. It's looking pretty good though. Got a lot of wind. Looks like we got a front coming in. Looks like maybe some rain here in about a half hour. Always seems to come in violent, and then you know, it rains for 10 minutes and then everything's calm again. Strange stuff, weather. Okay, we're heading for a target of 3.157, and we're at 3.154. So we've got 3 thousandths, and then we've got 3 thousandths clearance. So we've got about 6 yet to go. Let me get you off of the stand here and I'll show you what the cylinder looks like. It's a little more difficult to see since I honed it, but we're hitting all the way around the top, except I think we are all the way around until we get down into here. So we've got a spot right here and down here, but then on the other side we've got a spot right here where all this discoloration is. So from about here to here, it's hadn't hit yet. And then on this side, we've got a little spot right here. Oops, I can't see the other side. To just right at the port here. So I think, you know, that's kind of normal wear. You know, you're going to get the slap on the back and on the front. Slap on the back at the bottom and slap on the top in the front. So we're gonna cross our fingers and hope we can get her all the way, but it is what it is. You know, we're down to the pin, so that's about 2 thousandths or 3 at the most before we're the same size as the piston. So we'll grab another 2 thousandths and go to there and see what we have. It's going to get quite a bit of it, looks like. I'm sure there'll be a little that doesn't get. Okay guys, I think we're about as far as we can go. And with any luck, it'll finally or completely clean up during the hone. It'll be real close. Yep, that's just about it. That'd push through there. So we're within a half thousandths probably of being the same size. So we've got our 3/1000ths to put in. Let me show you where we're at. I think you can see just a little bit here around the exhaust. Yeah, there's a little at the bottom too, but not much. Just right here. And down at the bottom on the back side, I really can't tell. I think it's cut all the way down, but it hadn't taken all that discoloration out. I think there was some rust down here. It was, I think, more surface than anything. So I think that, I'm just not going to worry about that there. I'm not going to worry about any of it. It's a lot better than it was, and I think the hone will, if we're at between a half thousandths or whatever right now, uh, that means we've got 3/1000ths to go. So I think that it'll probably be very close to cleaning up, but there won't be too much left. Yep, we're right on it. 3.157. So we've got exactly, 3/1000ths. I think it said 2.8 to 3.1 for the setup. So I think we better hone the rest. So we'll go ahead and take that out of there. Okay. Let's see here what's working best. I think maybe you can see this. I still have a little bit of the discoloration here from the rust. And I don't think that's going to come out even with the hone. I think a little more of it will, but you can't feel it with your nail or your finger. So I don't think that's an issue. And of course that's at the very bottom of the stroke anyhow. After the bore there, I think you can see it's probably way too much light. Let me try to get it indirect here. Hopefully you can see right here, got just a little bit that didn't clean up right here and along the edge of the port, just a little bit on top. Not much there. I believe that that's going to come out during the hone. There's some more discoloration up here. In this area, but it's cleaned up. There's a little bit that didn't clean up right around this port, right here. And there's our discoloration again. For the most part, it's cleaned up. Let's look at the other side here. We've got some spots here that are a little different. I think you can see them. You know, sometimes there's just stuff in it that, you know, there's no void there, but it just looks different. And there's that little bit above the exhaust. I really think that's going to come out during that home though. But I'm happy with that. And another thing that I'm happy about is these studs up here. These were all, these look like they're factory inserted, and these came out very easily. Now, I am a proponent of the double nut method. I don't like to use stud pullers if at all possible, because they screw up your stud. So you put 2 nuts on, jam them together with a couple of wrenches, and then back them out. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then you have to revert to something else. But most of the time, you can get them out. And I was able to get all these out very easily by doing that. Like I say, the stud pullers, you're going to put them on right here, and they're going to mar and mark that area. And you know, if you don't care, that's okay. But the thing is, it makes them harder for the head to slide on. And if you sand that to try to remove it, you're taking off the cadmium plating, and then you're going to end up with rust issues. But that's just my thought on it. I try to do things so I damage things the least amount if possible. And that's what I do with those. And by the way, these studs are no longer available. So what I've been doing, if you've watched me do the, I think I put inserts in a 400, I had to get the 250 studs, cut them off just a little bit, and then replate the tops. Okay, our piston measured at 3.157, and what I did was I went over and I set my dial bore gauge up to 3.160. So that includes my 3/1000 clearance. So I'll go ahead and show you that now and show you about where we're at. You see we're about 3.5 thousandths from being the same size as that piston. Or no, I'm sorry. That's to get us with our clearance. Okay, so we're at about 1/2 thousandths before the piston will go in. I mean, you could push it through, but you know, 1/2 thousandths will come out of there, and then it'll just drop through. So by the time let's see, can you see that one? Let me get you down a little lower. Okay, so that's where we're at. So about 1/2 thousandths before we were the same size as the piston, and then our 3/1000ths clearance. When we end up at 0, we'll be in good shape, ready to put her on. So we'll get over to the hone and we'll see what we can do with that. You can see that this expands to meet your size of your barrel, and there's, according to, you know, if you've really got a big cylinder, I'm not real sure where it kicks in, but you've got to get different stones with longer with longer pins on it if you're doing this. But with what I do, I can get by with these for just about everything that I do. But what you want to do is you want to get it close, and then you set it, and then the rest of your adjustment is down here. So you want this kind of at your smallest setting. So roll that down, and then you can put your cylinder on. And I just expand that out and back it off a little bit. Oops. And then we've got a couple of set screws in the back here that will just lock down. And that'll keep that adjustment reasonably close. And now we can do our adjustment up here. Yeah, let's just check it. I do see a little of that discoloration, but it's just not going to go away. And not going to be any problem. All right. 3160. And 3160. On the money. Okay. Looks pretty good. Looks like near as I can tell, we cleaned up. Probably just by a skosh. But yeah, everything around the exhaust port was where we had something, and I'm not seeing anything there that didn't clean up. The only thing that I'm seeing is some of the discoloration, and it's not just at the bottom. You know, there's a little bit around the ports here. A lot of that stuff you just, you can't feel it. You're not going to get it out. I mean, you're going to bore until the thing is completely gone and probably not get it. And that's the majority of it right there. But again, can't feel it. I've got my ultrasonic cleaner heating up, and we're going to clean this, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and chamfer my ports. So let me get set up to do that. And we've got it all marked here. There's some compound on it so we can kind of see what's happening. Yeah, you can see the ring right here is in good shape, and all the inserts are below. There's a little bit out here, but right here is where we're going to seal. Yeah, actually we are, but it kind of goes beyond that a little bit. I really don't like the way this aftermarket gasket fits. Of course, you know, you kind of need the studs in there because they center right here, but looks like there's plenty of room. I'm probably going to use an original gasket and anneal it. That's probably what I'm going to do, because you can see here that it comes a lot closer to the fire ring. Now, I'm sure that's not what it's really called, but right, it's the top of the sleeve there. Yeah, I like the way that fits better. I think you can use these up to your 1/2 millimeter over, and then you've got to use the bigger one for as you get bigger. So I'm going to save this one, and we'll use an original. We'll just anneal it first. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up. Okay, well, we've got the surface plate out. Let's just go ahead and get the head checked out. We'll work on that a little bit longer. Okay, so it's looking pretty good there. The little screws are quite the issue. There it is for me, my old big hands. There's a little blue Loctite on these, and you don't have to tighten them very tight. Just make sure everything's clean, and when you get it tightened up, make sure that your reed is flat. Okay, we got some new paint on there, all spiffied up. All right, so we've got our head and our cylinder all cleaned up. Our .25 piston. So I think we're just about ready to go. I've got a ring here. That ain't gonna work, is it? That's a 250. Oh, let me go see if I can find my 400 ring. Yeah, I think this is better. All right. So our piston ring end gap, inches, 8 to 16 thousandths with a limit of 33 thousandths. And what I've got there is, yeah, that's maybe a little loose. Maybe I can go a little tighter. Yeah, good. Just a little drag. 12 thousandths, 0.30 millimeter. So we're good there. So I think we're about ready to put her on. So on the next one, that's what we'll be doing. Got a little bit of rust on this old set of rings here. So I'm going to use a little metal rescue on that. See a couple little spots back here, and probably a couple hours in there that'll take care of that, and then we'll be ready to go here. And we got to get our studs in. I put a little bit of anti-seize on these anyway, even though they just came right out. These really don't have to be very tight. Just snug down. Yeah, it takes a little time to do these, to do each one of these, but it's okay. Got all the time in the world. There you go. Ready for the build. Okay guys, there you got it. The prep, boring, everything we need to do to get it ready to build the top end, all done except for that ring. I've got to drop that in some metal rescue and clean that surface rust up, and everything will be good to go at that point. So the next video for this bike will more than likely be that build, so I can get the engine back together, and that way it's just better to have assemblies like that done. So that will be, we can plug the exhaust port and intake port and just let it set on the bench, or set it on the floor here in the shop. But anyhow, that's taken care of. I think that's it. I've got gaskets, the ring, some new hardware. I've got my reed plate ready to go. The head's painted, the cylinder's painted, and the studs are in it, and it's honed to spec. So we are ready. Hey, thanks for going along on the ride. See you next video.